Hi everybody, I'm coming to you from my in-laws farm in Wisconsin. It's a beautiful day and we are now starting week 4 of seminar 2. Welcome. Oh, I'm having such a nice time in Wisconsin. It's so relaxing. Anyway, so I am looking forward to seeing your first assignments and especially looking at what format you chose for presenting your information. I'm thinking I will probably not be able to start on those until Sunday, so I'll probably get them back to you Monday or Tuesday. I'm thinking they'll be done by then. Okay, so this week we are again focused on technology. So remember, your initial response to week 4 DQ1 is you're going to be doing a brief introduction and then attaching your week 3 assignment, whether that's in a PowerPoint or a paper or however you chose to decide to present your information. So you'll just attach it as an attachment and then write a brief paragraph introducing it so we can all know what it's about. So that'll be fun, kind of sharing with each other what you guys discovered, what you wrote about, so that'll be good. All right. For discussion question 2, you're actually going to be looking at different types of distance learning. Now, we tend to all think about online learning, right? But there's a lot of different ways to do distance learning. I've especially been involved in distance learning through my continuing education. I've had distance learning where I've been sent a book to read and then have to take a quiz at the end to get my CEUs. I watched a webinar to get my CEUs. I recently did a guest lecture up at the University of Utah for a class that had students who were they were in a track to be special education teachers working with severe impacted students. And I had students in the class, and then I was on camera being broadcast to students at a satellite location. So a lot of different ways we can use distance education. So you're going to be looking at one type of distance education, whatever you want to choose, and then you'll be looking at the history of it, the pros and cons. Is this something you would consider using? So it'll be interesting to see. All right, now, week 4, there's no assignment, but there is in week 5, so you really need to start looking at that one. You'll be selecting an issue that impacts distance education. It can impact the student, the faculty member, administration. It can kind of be any of those areas that you want. So think broadly about that. And again, you'll have a choice of how you want to present the material, but however you presented your week 3 assignment, you will not be able to use that same method for week 4. So you'll have to pick another one from the list, okay? And here, you're going to be identifying the issue, but then you're actually going to be proposing strategies of how to address that issue. So you'll have to get a little creative and dig a little bit into the research. Again, you'll have need to have scholarly, peer-referenced materials that use as your references. So I think that'll be an interesting one. And so just digging a little deeper into technology, I just wanted to touch base on just a few other technologies. One of them is kind of a low-tech technology. The Learning Resource Center, or some people call it like the Center for Teaching and Learning, or whatever the support area is for a university for educators. I went to some classes that they were doing at a community college that I was teaching at, and they had this neat little tool for kind of self-study for the students. So basically, it was a card, and it looked like a computer card where you fill in the little bubbles and then you scan it, a scanner card. Except it had like number 1, A, B, C, D, E, number 2, A, B, C, D, E. It went all the way down. Except the student, when they answered the questions, they would take a coin or something and scrape off the answer to see if they got it right. So the instructor had a list of the correct answers that were on that scanner. And so I could write a question. If number 1 had the correct mark under C, I would write a question where the correct answer was C. But basically, I could write some review questions, send them home with the student. As they were answering the questions, they would scrape off to see if they got it right. If they didn't get it right, they could scrape off the rest of the responses until they got the right one. So it was kind of a good study review tool in preparing for a test. So I liked that one. And those are just available to purchase. And then the technology of testing is changing. I think we've talked briefly about the NCLEX, how there are other types of questions besides just multiple choice. There's a drag and drop. Select the right file to find this information and then decipher it to see how it applies to your patient. Where would you assess to find this particular finding on this drawing of a person? Multiple responses. Is it ABC? Is it ABD? Is it all of the above? Whatever. So that technology is changing. There are some things that we're getting more into about telemedicine. Like, for instance, if patients are on monitors of some sort at home, assessing those, are we going to be doing virtual home health visits to very remote areas, maybe? Things like that. So that's a different area to learn about. And then another area that continues to grow is how people monitor their own health, like Fitbits and things like that. How can we look at their heart rate and other data that's collected and compare to the activity that they're doing? We now have patients with continuous glucose monitors that are interacting with insulin pumps. And do our students know how to work with those? Do our staff know how to work with those when they come into the hospital? So technology itself is changing both in education and in healthcare, and anything in healthcare always impacts education. So just a few other things to consider as we're talking about these topics of technology. All right, so I am really looking forward to reading those week 3 assignments, and just want you to be thinking forward about week 5 for that additional assignment. And I think we're going to have some good discussions, kind of talking about each other's work in the main forum. All right, guys, I will see you in the main forum.